and songs were inspirations for me growing up. Well, all kinds of things, I guess, from early Beatles. The Beatles were the first live band I ever saw on a television show in England when we as a family sailed to England from Perth to Southampton. By the way, go the White Sox. You know, I'd have to say, I don't know, there's a lot of Australian bands we used to go and see as kids as well. And they had a great influence on me. Bands that probably very few people in the rest of the world, even in Australia, would even know. People like Billy Thorpe and the Aztecs, the La-Di-Das. The list just goes on. But having said that, you know, from an international point of view, for us living in Australia, you know, I'll never forget seeing Led Zeppelin. They had a profound effect on me. AC/DC, funnily enough. Malcolm Young is probably one of my idols, just the way he plays power chords. Songs, well, there's so many. There's things like Sweet Leaf of Master of Reality by Black Sabbath. You know, I mean, that had a big impact on me too. I love the cover, apart from the song, just the whole album. Changes of Black Sabbath 4. Imagine by John Lennon. You know, my life's been just full of music. In fact, when I was a really little kid, one of the first things I remember was a song called Pretty Flamingos. And that was when I started going, I want to listen to a lot more music. Which INXS album is my favorite? That's a really tough question. It depends what you mean, from playing the songs live to actually recording the album. You know, it's funny, but I really don't listen to our albums much because it's a bit like looking at photos of yourself. You know, it's kind of hard to do. I really enjoyed making any of the records with Chris Thomas. I love the man personally, and I love working with him. He understands me from a musical point of view completely. Having said that, the same with Mark Opitz. So that would include Shabush Shabar and probably Welcome to Wherever You Are, probably two of my favourite records we've done with him, if not the two of all time. I love listening to Welcome to Wherever You Are other than other albums, although that was a hard time in my life because I was actually really ill during the making of that record. And you know, I love the new record because it's a new chapter and it's exciting, and I love working with Guy Chambers and his crew. So to answer your question, I really can't. It's hard for me to say I have a favourite INXS album. I like them all for various reasons. The most rewarding on tour so far? Oh, that one. It's got to be the audience response. And I suppose if you mean this tour, it's been back in big venues. It's seeing how well we're accepted at the moment. The fans are going ballistic, and how much they have adhered to JD. I suppose we have a lot of new fans through him as well. And in many ways, the response we've gotten from a lot of people that were fans of the band before, that we've sort of reawoken. So I suppose if I was to come up with one answer for that, I would say just completing the tour. At the devil's party, there's no light from the sun. The track I'm most looking forward to making into a video off the new album, it's actually a toss-up for me between three songs. One would be Hot Girls, the other would be Devil's Party, and the third would be Never Let You Go. We're currently playing all three of those songs live, and I love playing them. and I've sort of ideas for each and every one of them. That's kind of why. But you know, once again, it's hard to pick which one I'd like to do the most. But if I was to be pushed and pressured, I'd have to say Devil's Party.
Look,
you know, I'm not really fussed about the size of the venue. I like theatre sizes because I like the sound you get in theatres. And I like the big venues because I like the room, I like the whole production that you're able to have in those big venues. I like the size of the crowd, it just double energizes you, although any crowd energizes me. And I love the really small ones too because of the intimacy and the fact that you're right there in front of your fan's face and they're right in ours. So I don't really have a preference. I enjoy all, and all are a challenge, and it's all the same to me. But the big venues have big dressing rooms, and that I like. My favourite and least favourite sounds, that's an odd question. My least favourite is, I don't know if you've ever seen Ace Ventura, but when he does the on the plate with a knife and fork, that's one of my least favourite sounds. The other is babies crying in close proximity when you're on a long flight. The old nail on the chalkboard, that's another least favourite. I'm not sure if you're talking about band sounds, but if you're standing really close to John and he checks his snare drum and he does the old fire, because he's got some serious momentum going on with that drumstick there. It'll, like, if you're not expecting it, that's heavy. And my favourite sounds are probably just when the band comes together, and it's just, which is a really good thing for us, has been most of our life. And playing with my brothers, and Kirk and Gary and JD and Michael. They're all harmonious sounds to me, and I love the sound of waterfalls, I love the sound of the ocean. Another one I really hate is squeaky sand on the beach. That's probably my least favourite sound of all. Oh, and jackhammers outside your hotel room. The most surprising or touching experience we've had as a group was probably in Toronto when I got touched in the wrong place by somebody. Although she was pretty, but it was both surprising and well, it was kind of pleasurable as well in some ways. But you know, I don't go for that sort of thing really. So I mean, much. But you know, I guess we've had periods where we won 7 USA MTV awards in one particular award show. That was surprising in a way and touching. I suppose another surprising thing was when we were sitting in the rehearsal room in Australia and Michael never showed up, and we discovered why. That was, for me, was very surprising. Touching experiences, well, if we're talking non-family, within the band, I suppose the way JD reacted to me telling him that he was right for our band, INXS. And I guess the other thing too is just the response we've had in this whole tour has been phenomenal, and that's been not so much surprising, but very touching. If there was a song that could describe my life, it's A Long Way to the Top, If You Want to Rock and Roll, by AC/DC. And I think the reason why is obvious. We've done so many, and other people have done them, you know, on their own account without even us like looking for remixes. So that's a really hard one to answer. Probably I'd have to say Norman Cook once did a remix for us that was never released, never saw the light of day. And I'm getting into grey areas here because it's probably legal ramifications about what I'm about to say. Let's just leave it as a mystery. Okay, that was one of them. Cold Cut's remix of What You Need I thought was really good for its time. And there's just been so many and they're all great, and I don't want to diss any of them by picking one, to be honest. That's cool. Yeah, probably. Of course, Aretha Franklin would be awesome. Yes and no. I've always kind of had there are artists that probably no one's heard of that I'd like to collaborate with. There's a band in Australia called Rogue Traders. I really like what they're doing, and I think it'd be kind of cool to collaborate with those guys. Well, a lot of my favourite artists I'd like to collaborate with are dead. But, speaking of that, Mick Jones maybe from The Clash and Big Audio Dynamite. I'd love to do something with him one day. Maybe Don Was, from a production point of view. Probably, yeah, you know what, I mean, in some ways, I wouldn't mind collaborating with Prince too, if that's his name today. And then there's, Neil Finn and the Finn brothers. I wouldn't mind at some point doing a Farriss and Finn brothers thing just called The Brothers. That might be a nice thing to do as well. I really like Ted Baker. I love wearing Ted Baker suits. I like wearing Armani suits, depending on the occasion. I like, there's a guy from Australia called Morrissey. I think he's got some really good ideas and does some really great stuff. I like Henry Duarte. I like, I don't know, there's just so many around, it's hard to sort of pin, they're some of my favourites. So, I think, Jean-Paul Gaultier, he's a pretty cool dude as well. He's always had really innovative designs and just wild ideas, that I think are off the planet, and they're usually ahead of their time. But trouble is, I found they date really quickly. I like, I like this. This is old, I like buying old stuff that's just been worn for years and it's comfortable. And, designers go to a lot of trouble today to make a jacket look like this, whereas this is a genuine 60s jacket, and I have a pair of Polo Ralph Lauren leather jeans or pants, or whatever you want to call them, that are kind of like, I guess they're flares in a way, and they just fit like a glove, and they're just so comfortable to wear and so soft. So I'm not really a designer junkie, to be honest. But I like what they do, and I'm more of a designer slut.